There is definitely some hat changing going on in this next week coming up in front of us. This is, we still got a couple of weeks left of April, but we don't have many more days left of Aries for the sun. It's still very strong in the Aries signature because we have a lot of planets dancing in that Aries realm. Like this is today, Sunday, when I'm sitting down and trying to consider how best to phrase this dance that's going on in a fashion that is going to be meaningful for all of us. That's the key. I can't be so specific here because, each one of us has a unique trajectory path that we're on. But you have to look at your own individual chart in order to be able to determine what that actually is. So the shotgun approach that I have to take each week is, what are the general flavors that it would be advisable to be aware of? And, your own take on that is going to be a reflection of what it is that you need to, draw forth from yourself to do this life dance in this upcoming week. As you can see, this is Sunday and there's Neptune and Mercury and Mars and Saturn and Chiron and the Sun all in Aries. There's, feel the mulling around kind of energy that wants to, get something initiated. There's a lot of planetary signatures in that Aries archetype that are saying, yeah, I want to do this, that, and the other thing. Doesn't that sound really Aries? The initiation of life. Okay. As the week begins, first off, this is probably a key one. The hat change, if you will. The sun has just shifted out of Aries, gone into Taurus. That potentially erratic, energized Aryan energy that's about initiating things takes a break, if you will. When the sun moves into Taurus, it's just kind of like, all that energetic activity that Aries represents, Taurus comes along and says, chill, folks. I need a break. And Taurus is the builder, the nature lover, the natural artist kind of energy. There's a gardener, the druid, the provider, the earth mother, naturalist, music lover, and chef. Now, that's a lot of Taurus kind of energies, Taurus is about value. What is of value to us? And, the capacity to sink into a Venus-ruled sign. Venus is still in Taurus, by the way. It has been there for the past couple of weeks, moving along at a pretty good rate. And it's going to shift this week, too, out of Taurus and into Gemini. Another of those shifts. We have several shifts that are taking place this week. Anyway, welcome to the season of Taurus. One factor that if you're a Taurus or if you're dealing with somebody that has a strong Taurian archetypal flavor being the key word here, provide them with some kind of tasty and delightful food. I have a sweet tooth. Actually, I have a whole mouth full of sweet teeth. So desserts, Desserts are my forte. Give me a great dessert, phew, I'm in happy zone. But that isn't always for everybody their leaning. I know my son, he likes salty things, Give him meat and potatoes and rice, chips, those kinds of things. And he's a happy camper. The desserts, well, they're okay every now and again. But variety is the spice of life. On this very same day, Monday, Mercury has caught up with Mars at 8 degrees of Aries. I think the Sabian symbol for that particular degree of Aries is the crystal ball gazer. Yeah, a crystal gazer. The development of the inner realization of organic wholeness. But let's look at the players here. Mars in Aries, well, don't hold back. There's a pulse, an impulse, if you will, to accelerate and do things that, may not necessarily be the most well thought out potential direction to go in. Mercury comes along, dancing, holding hands with Mars. It is highly likely that words in this kind of a situation might leap off the tongue without necessarily having the forethought as to the appropriateness of what is this particular moment likely to require that this impulsive word verbiage is going to potentially disrupt. Yeah, that's the kind of energy of Mercury and Mars holding hands in Aries. Mercury is one of the players this week that is worth paying attention to. And we will get to that. The week proceeds, and on move the planets. Oh, by the way, this week from the 19th to the 23rd, the moon is out of bounds in its northern declination, which, technically, whenever it's down here in this zone of Gemini through to Leo, it's out of bounds in the current annual cycle that we're in right now. So, how we feel the moon, in essence, has the potential for just a wee bit more wild, kind of a nature to what it is. And, right off the bat here, we're Tuesday. Actually, let's go back to Monday. It went out of bounds on Sunday when it was sitting there in between, right on Uranus. The unpredictability factor of Uranus, shake, rattle, and roll. I want to, create a kind of energy that is of such a nature that you're going to have a hard time sitting still while this is transpiring. That is Uranus. It's, it wants to, throw you off balance so that you might perceive that there's something else that I need to pay attention to that is Uranus's function. Anyway, on that day, the moon went out of bounds, goes into Gemini. Gemini, our conscious curiosity to, fabricate, format, thinking processes that beckon for input, answers, a curious level of interchange or exchange of thoughts with others in an anticipation of discovering something new that you didn't really know before. And the moon, how you feel in this Gemini, what it's doing is that it's actually setting the heaven for what else is going to transpire this week. And as you can kind of see, it's just skittling along out of bounds as we get to Wednesday, a Mercury day. But Thursday comes along. Oh yeah. First quarter moon actually happens on Wednesday, or Thursday. What day am I on? And two of our players, Venus and Uranus, are both sitting at the 29th degree of Taurus. Always keeping in mind that Uranus is not the most steady kind of energy that you can effectively anticipate that things are going to, roll along smoothly. Well, Taurus likes things to roll along smoothly. Venus is the ruler of Taurus. Venus, on the very last degree of Taurus, holding hands with Uranus. Don't be surprised if on this Thursday there is a cage rattling that is taking place in the realm of relations, and all kinds of relations, not just relationship, but your relation to money. This is a Taurus we're still talking. Your relation to, Mother Earth. It is Taurus we're talking about. Is basically being shake, rattle, and roll with this Uranus function, saying, the potential for some excitement, always there with Uranus. And Venus, that interactive capacity that we have with one another. Don't be surprised on this day if you discover something about your partner, or, the advent of a new partner showing up that has this, exuberant kind of energy that you just can't get enough of. Always keep in mind, however, that how Uranus plays the game is it's exciting in the moment, but the longevity factor is not necessarily part of the equation that you can count on for an extended cycle. Enjoy the moment that shows up within this partnership realm of those that enter into that equation right now on this, as this week is unfolding, on this very last degree of Taurus. Be adventurous with one another. Don't worry about the tomorrows, because in that current moment, something is rattling and shaking around, trying to waken you up to aspects of the being alive process that, you're going to learn something from, and lessons. Hey, lessons, they don't always work out like you might hope that they would. But enjoy the moment while it lasts, There's something there that is worth paying attention to. Okay. On Friday, Venus, changing of hats, slips into Gemini. Remember we were considering, as far as that, sudden, inspiring kind of relationship energy that the Uranus and Venus were playing with. This Venus going into Gemini, remember we had that out of bounds moon that started out this week in Gemini, is basically spinning the potential tale of a storyline. After all, Gemini is the trickster, the storyteller, shapeshifter, youth. These are all kinds of Gemini things. A teacher, an informant. And the process of this Gemini-Venus dance right now says that the question might come up. In my interaction zone that I'm sharing with another, do I or can I have the capacity to engage in such a way that new information can be gleaned, will surface in such fashion that I will be able to add to my repertoire of life awareness in such a fashion that that engagement with others is going to spark something new that wants to awaken the curiosity factor within me. And, we've just entered the Taurian zone. Venus is the ruler of Taurus. So how is it, or how effective is our engagement with that zone of value that this Venus in Gemini right now will curiously have us consider, what more is there that I can tune into to expand this level of awareness of what is and what is not of real value to me. This is Saturday. Uranus, basically 2 minutes away from shifting into Gemini as well. This is a big shift. Uranus takes about 7-ish years to go through a sign. And this is the very last day that Uranus will be in Taurus for another 80 some years. It's shifting into Gemini until, 2033 or so? The shift. On this day, Uranus, another hat change, is moved out of that realm where we want to build something of value, Taurus, and, in the Uranus factor that has been in play for the past 7 years, the things that are, questing to be built require a substantial level of calmness. This is Uranus going through Taurus for 7 years. In order to be able to facilitate, an unevenness that has been present, that is seeking unpredictable levels of alterations and change. That's how Uranus works. Now Uranus has gone into Gemini. How stimulated is our curiosity level for these next 7 years with Uranus going through Gemini? Not only do I sense or need a capacity to be intrigued by more information and conversation and interaction at a level where I might be learning something, but it's not necessarily going to be handed to you on a silver platter so that you can easily comprehend it. Oh, no, not. It's Uranus. Uranus is saying, yeah, there are things on the plate, but, they're bouncing around. Some of them are falling off the edges of the plate. can you function quickly enough to be able to, grasp things before they're gone? Remember I indicated earlier when Mercury was close to Mars, they were holding hands in Aries. Mercury is still in Aries. Mercury's the ruler of this Gemini. So, this culmination of this week as Uranus goes into Gemini, Mercury in Aries is not holding back. That I'm becoming curiouser and curiouser about stuff that I can't necessarily predict. It's Uranus. One should never get too carried away with the prediction idea when Uranus is in the equation. Because, right off the bat, Uranus's function is to rattle the cage hard enough that you don't feel comfortable with, you don't feel like you know everything that you need to know in the experience. There's something new, always trying to put in an appearance to wake you up. That is Prometheus's function. Wake you up to stuff you didn't have awareness of up to that point. Anyway, I see also on this day that Venus is forming a sextile to Neptune up here in early Aries. I know there's this unpredictability factor that I keep talking about, but the potential for the type of individual that you encounter at this time at the end of the week to potentially provide you with new information might spark that Neptunian creative level that has no easily definable container or parameter that says that you need to function within this narrow band of experience. That's not how Neptune works. And so, in the Venus Gemini curiosity level, it's likely that in your conversations or interactions that you have with others as this week comes to a close, there's something that puts in an appearance that says, are you paying attention to spirit? Sit with that for just a couple of seconds. Yes, being curiouser and curiouser and asking questions. Might there be, what shall we call it, a bottom line? Yeah, even as I say bottom line, it's kind of like, I don't think that really does justice to what spirit may have in mind for where our curious direction may be pointing us toward. I'm going to leave you with that thought for this week. Welcome to Taurus. There's a lot of world, a lot of nature out there that could use our assistance. We are a part of nature. We are made up of all the same minerals and elements that nature is. We have mobility to be in different parts of nature. Enjoy that. Enjoy it with everything that you have, because there are factors. I don't want to get into the political thing. The political things going on right now are obtuse, in your face. Recently listened to a long conversation. It's been going on for months about the leasing to a Chilean company to mine for copper sulfates in the headwaters of the Boundary Lakes area in Minnesota. This company, foreign company, is coming in to extract copper sulfate from deep mines that have intense ecological potential harm to the water systems. And this Boundary Lakes area is thousands of lakes, and these are at the headwaters. And this Chilean company is going to come in, and it's going to sell all this copper that it mines to China. And China will basically refine and make it into copper and sell it on the world market at the cost of the destruction of this magnificently beautiful part of nature, the Boundary Lakes. And can you see the advantage to the American people in this at all? I can't. This is an area that has been set aside for its pristine beauty and also for its economic support for a whole entire area of America. This irks me. This makes my Taurus hackles stand up and say, something is out of balance in this. Who is making the money from this? Someone in the government is gleaning economic recompense from the Chilean government, not from China, to allow them to come in and spoil a natural beauty spot. Congress, the Senate just passed permission for this Chilean company to do this. This is wrong, and we need to do something about it. Anyway, welcome to Taurus. That's all for this week.